Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sunday, August 23rd edition of StudentLoanJustice.org. My name is Alan Collins. We are Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest, largest, and pretty much only true citizens group actually fighting for student loan justice. We've been around for 15 years now. We've been featured top story on 60 Minutes, and NPR, PBS, Los Angeles Times, New York Times. We have been the key reason for many pieces of legislation going back to 2007, starting with Hillary Clinton's Borrower Bill of Rights, and now with current bipartisan legislation, S 1414 and HR 2648. These two bills would return standard bankruptcy protections to student loans. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do. But the founding fathers felt so strongly that the citizens must have bankruptcy rights because they themselves, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, many others, were being completely screwed under debt to British banks and merchants. So today, student loans is the only type of lending instrument in this country to be uniquely stripped of this constitutional protection. It has caused a hyperinflationary, state-sponsored, big government, predatory lending system. And we do not have to take it, folks. We do not have to put up with this nonsense. If you're new to the group, I'm glad that you found us. Welcome. What took you so long? As I said, we've been fighting this battle for many years now. And I'm here to tell you, after 15 years of fighting very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections, which we will continue to do, by the way, it is now a failed lending system. And we are calling for an executive order that would cancel all federally owned student loans. By executive order, the president can do this, whether it's President Trump or whether it's the next president. This is a failed, unconstitutional, indefensible lending system. Nobody is paying right now, but even before the coronavirus, almost nobody was paying. According to Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos herself, 75% of all borrowers, as of, I think, a year ago, were either unable to pay on their loans or they were paying, but their balance was going up. Now, the default rate for 2004 students is 40%, probably higher, actually. But the class of 2004 was only borrowing about 1/3 of what students are borrowing today. So, folks, this lending system is done. It's toast. The forgiveness plans, the loan cancellation plans, either proposed or the ones already in existence, will never work. They will never, ever work. What will work is a presidential executive order canceling these loans. That's what's got to happen at this point. So I'm very happy to report that our petition calling for exactly what I just said, and you can see the link to it here or here. And by the way, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to throw them out. I would much rather be having a conversation than being up here as a talking head. But yeah, no, I'm very glad that our petition is now at about 562 or so thousand signatures. That's over 500,000 people. We are hoping to get that up to 1 million signatures. In fact, not hoping, we need to get that up to 1 million signatures by the end of the month. That will guarantee, hopefully, fair press coverage, and it will get it into the national conversation. Because right now, the loan cancellation that we're hearing about, and we are hearing about it, which is good, from Joe Biden and before him, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, even Kamala Harris on the campaign trail, and others, all of those cancellation proposals are junk. They're all nonsense. First of all, Congress is not going to pass a law that raises $1 or $2 trillion in tax money so that they can pay for the loans. But think about it, folks. The taxpayers already funded these loans. The taxpayers already paid for these loans. And by the way, the taxpayers made most, if not all, of their money back at this point. So that 1.7 or so trillion dollars outstanding federal student loan debt, it's closer to 1.5 or 6, but most, if not all of that, is interest, penalties, fees, interest, etc. The federal government has not only been making a $50+ billion profit on this lending system for the past 10 years. They even make a profit on defaulted student loans. And that's something that no other lender can claim. That's the most astounding statistic that you will hear from me tonight. But yeah, folks, we've got 560,000 signatures. We can make this happen. Nobody is paying on their loans right now. And if everything goes well, if you and me, you out there watching this, if we do our part to get this petition rocking and rolling and to get good media coverage for this petition, it will happen. Because believe it or not, everybody on the other side of this issue, our opposition, the colleges, most notably the lending system, the people at the Department of Education, the crony for-profit contractors and nonprofit around them, all the people, in other words, all the people making money off this lending system, they know it's a failed lending system, folks. We've been doing this for a long time. We have been researching this topic very closely for many years. And believe me when I tell you, everybody in Washington, D.C. who's making money off of this lending system, they know that it's a failed lending system, but they don't want to touch it. They're afraid of it because the whole thing is collapsing as we speak. So nobody's paying on their loans right now, folks. And in my humble opinion, we don't give advice, but in my humble opinion, if anybody starts repaying, certainly on their federal loans ever again, that's not only unwise, but it's unpatriotic. This is a big government beast that is threatening not only us, the 55 million borrowers and cosigners in the country, 43 million federal student loan borrowers. It's a threat to all the people who have not yet gone to college. And that's tens or even hundreds of millions of people. Hey, Tara Powell. Yep, I have $40,000 in interest. You know, I suspect that the vast majority of everybody in this group, and probably the majority of all student loan borrowers everywhere, their current balances are more interest or penalties and fees baked into a new loan, that sort of thing. It's not unpaid principal. It's interest and fees, etc. So, you know, the president could cancel these loans tomorrow, whether it's Donald Trump or in January, Joe Biden, if he should be so lucky as to win the race. It doesn't matter who the person is, the president can cancel these loans without needing congressional approval, no congressional approval, without needing to pay for anything, because the taxpayers have already paid for these loans. So no congressional approval, no tax appropriation required. The Department of Education doesn't need to be paid twice for these loans. That's just ridiculous. And it wouldn't add a penny to the national debt. You know, we just, in 5 years, wow, that's amazing, Tara. This is what the lending system has become. When you take bankruptcy protections away from a lending instrument, when you take statutes of limitations, you have the borrowers over a barrel. You know, that's why the founding fathers, for all their faults, they were very worried about a predatory, tyrannical lending system conquering and enslaving, in the words of John Adams, not me, this country. And that's exactly what is happening before our very eyes with these student loans. Not only federal student loans, but also private student loans and a couple other classes of student loans, Perkins loans, FFELP loans. It is a national disgrace. It's a catastrophe. It's a shame. And, you know, I have to think the founding fathers are looking down on us, the borrowers, and they're going, man, how did our citizens get so weak? Why are they bending over and taking this? If this happened on our watch, we would have thrown the tea into Boston Harbor many years ago. We would have dragged the student loan executives out of their offices and tarred and feathered them, if not worse. So the founding fathers are on our side, folks. We do not have to put up with this unconstitutional, vicious lending scam. And it is a scam. So Folks, there's two things we're fighting for right now. Number one, it's the petition on change.org. If we can get that up to 1 million signatures by, I'm thinking, the end of the month, that will be about where we need to be to thrust this issue into the national spotlight. The second thing is that the president cannot cancel all student loans by executive order. There's still going to be like 15% of all student loans hanging around. We still have got to get our constitutional bankruptcy rights returned to those loans. So two things, petition and bankruptcy for all the loans that remain. We have two bills in Congress right now, S-1414 and H.R. 2648. S-1414 is the most important bill right now. It's in the Senate. If you have one or two Republican senators in your state, or maybe even a nearby state, and you do, we need to get a Republican senator to co-sponsor S-1414. So if you have federally owned student loans, so direct loans primarily, and all the flavors of direct loans that are out there, parent plus loans, etc., graduate plus loans, etc., direct grad plus loans, you need to be fighting for the petition. If you have any other types of loans, private student loans, Perkins loans, the older style FFELP loans, and you'll have to call the Department of Education and check to actually see what kind of loans you do have, you need to be rocking and rolling on those two pieces of legislation, S-1414, H.R. 2648. Hey, Tara also says, I can't even finish college because of this, and Brown Mackey stealing loan money. I'm not sure about that second part. I think I might have heard about that. I think it was a guy who was defrauding like Howard University. Am I even close on that, Tara? But yeah, the corruption in and around this lending program is the stuff that will be written about in history books. You know, when I started this thing 15 years ago, we owed around 400, maybe a little bit less, $1 billion in student loans. Today, we owe like 5 times that, like 4 times that amount. It's gone up by 400%. And have wages gone up by 400% since then? Are people... No, they are not. Prices have not changed. Our earnings have not really changed since 2005. What has changed is that, and I hate to say it, but this happened on Barack Obama's watch, on 8 years under Barack Obama, Joe Biden, we added nearly $1 trillion onto our debt tab. Now, I'm not bashing Biden, Obama. Well, I guess I am. But this goes well past any sitting presidents, any secretary of education. Donald Trump has been a nightmare on this problem. Barack Obama said nice things, but he did nothing. George Bush before him was a nightmare. And on down the list. It's really not it's not the elected presidents and the secretaries of education that are the problem here. It is the swamp. It is the unelected, unappointed lobbyists, lawyers, bureaucrats in and around the Department of Education where this problem lies. It is simply disgusting, and we do not have to take it. Hey, Deanna Bailey's with us tonight. Hey, Deanna. So, folks, I'm very glad to tell you, we went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin on last week for the DNC convention. And we were like literally a protest of one, like literally. I was like one guy with a sign on an empty block. But even despite all that, we still were able to turn lemons into lemonade. And today we are being featured across the state of Wisconsin in a news segment. The station is called Spectrum One, so you can just Google that, maybe Google my name and you can find it. Or look up and down on this group and you can see it too. It was surprisingly a quite well done piece. And I've linked to it, their Facebook version of the story here on this group also. And I would urge you, check it out, particularly the Facebook thing. There's the regular band of haters have come out. And, hey, when you borrow money, you got to pay it back. Don't be a freeloader. That whole crowd. So I would urge you to shut them down, please. It's very easy to shut the haters down. And here's the key. Number one, the people who hate on us and our argument, they almost always consider themselves to be conservatives. Most of them consider themselves to be libertarians, so they don't like government. They for sure do not like Obama. They absolutely do not like Obamacare. So while these people are wagging their fingers at us, they don't even realize that they are being used as tools to defend the worst big government monstrosity this country has ever seen before. They're blaming the victims. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves as conservatives. You know, what I like to tell them, I say, you know, by wagging your finger at me, you are defending the worst big government lending scam this country has ever seen. You're being played for a fool by big government, and shame on you. I tell them to turn in your conservative card because you've been played, you fool. You know, I might also add, 60, if not 65% of all student loan borrowers, they self-identify as being politically either independent or Republicans. So these people are wagging their finger at us, but really they are stepping on the heads of their fellow citizens, most of whom are either Republican or independent. Shame on those petty people. They're ignorant. They apparently haven't read the Constitution. They obviously know nothing about the uniquely vicious, unconstitutional, predatory, hyperinflationary nature of student loans. They just don't get it. The only thing they know is either they went to college decades ago and paid like $2,000 on their student loans, more if they went to college, or they didn't go to college and they just hate people who did. That's really what's going on here, folks. And to those people, I say there is nothing that you can say or do to change the fact that this big government lending system is failed. 80% of all borrowers will never be able to pay the money back. So stick that in their faces, you know. And I love doing that, by the way. I could do it all day long, and I'm fine with that. But, you know, I only have so many hands, so much time. And I've done it for so many times, it's not even fun anymore for me. It's kind of boring. But you, by all means, stand up for us. Don't walk away from a fight like that with your tail in between your legs. Because the people that are hating on us ought to be ashamed of themselves. They need to turn in their conservative cards because they're being played for a fool. And if you actually engage them with the facts and they hang in to the conversation, the good ones, and there are a few good ones, will eventually come around to agreeing with you. I have never lost this argument in all the years I've been doing this. In every argument I've ever had with the haters, if they were of good faith in their arguing, they have always come around to agree with us. And by the way, one side corollary of what we're fighting for, the cancellation of all federal student loans, this would mean the end of the lending system, which is the major source of funding for colleges. Now, obviously, we're not going to cut all the colleges loose. In the real world, what probably should happen is instead of giving $100 billion a year in loan money to the colleges, maybe it'll be, $70 billion or some far lower amount, which will force the colleges to lower their prices. That helps everyone, especially wealthy, moderately wealthy people who pay full book value, who write checks. They don't get loans, they write checks for their kids' tuition. They should be on our side too. So yeah, don't let the knee-jerk dipshit conservatives shut you down, because we are in the right and the Constitution is on our side, not theirs. And if they don't like it, they can find another country to live in as far as I'm concerned. So, hey, Tara, again, a lot of these politicians got monetary interest in the system. It is so corrupt. Oh, you have no idea, Tara. I've literally written a book talking about, at least in part, all of the money that has been funneled into not only campaign coffers, but to the family members of elected officials. And this goes across the board. This is not just Republicans, it's Democrats and Republicans also. Dianne Feinstein, her family owns a huge interest in, I believe it was ITT Tech. Senator Ted Kennedy Senator Ted Kennedy has received, before he died, and he's a great man. He's a great senator. I think you can have your own opinions. Even Ted Kennedy received probably hundreds of thousands of dollars from the student loan industry. He'd taken rides on Sallie Mae's private corporate jet. Joe Biden plays golf on the CEO the CEO of Sallie Mae, Albert Lord. Joe Biden plays golf, I have heard. I haven't confirmed, but I have heard, on Albert Lord's private luxury 18-hole, I think $30 million golf course. So, and, don't even get me started. I could talk about the United Negro College Fund, the NAACP. I could talk about Catholic colleges across the country. I could talk about every college across the country. And I could shake my stick at probably 75, if not 90% of all sitting members of Congress have taken money from the student loan industry. It is corrupt. It's disgusting. And every time you pay $1 back on your federal student loans, you're rewarding this big government beast. My opinion, don't do that. It's bad for the country. It's bad for you. It's bad for the tens or hundreds of millions of people to follow in our footsteps. This lending system has got to be shut down, folks. It's got to be taken out to the bathroom and drowned in the tub. And those aren't my words. Those are the words of conservative Grover Norquist, by the way. This lending system has failed. It's toast. It's got to go away. Now, this could have a good ending, which is what I said. The president recognizes this disaster for what it is, cancels the loans, and comes up with a better, more fair, lower priced way to get our kids college educated. Solutions are out there. And that's beyond our current focus right now. Right now, our focus is to get these canceled in the right way, which is what I just said. But this could also have a bad ending, folks. I think we are a nation of people, not a nation of laws. But the corrupted laws that are on the books right now do indeed give the lending system up to and including, and probably most of all, the Department of Education, the swamp, the big government swamp that is controlling this thing. Huge collection powers, power to garnish wages without a court order, even the power of arrest, believe it or not. 5 years ago, federal marshals started barging down the doors of defaulted student loan borrowers in this little district in Texas and hauling them off in arrest. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a fact. Google it. Google federal marshals, student loans, Texas, and maybe my name, Collins. I was interviewed many times about it. But this is the sort of dystopian police state nonsense that we really want to avoid. I mean, if it gets to that point, people are going to die. I mean, there's going to be blood in the streets. There's going to be riots. People will probably be murdered on both sides. And we don't want that. Why would we? These are student loans we're talking about, folks. These aren't nuclear launch codes. These aren't state secrets. This is just a little podunk, shitty, pardon my French, little corrupted federal government lending system that was allowed to grow out of control. It's got to be put out of its misery. So please bear that in mind as we go forward. But yeah, dudes, I was very glad to see we got that little media thing done, which was really turning lemons into lemonade, considering that we were the only person on that block almost for 2 days running. You yourself, and we need your help on this. If we're going to get to 1 million signatures by the end of the month, you need to do whatever you can to get as many people as you know about to sign the petition and share the petition among their networks as well. If there was another solution out there that actually made sense, I would put this banner behind me in storage and I would join that group. But they don't exist. They are us. We are it. We are the tip of the spear and we are the only spear that's going to result in the actual cancellation of these loans. The stuff you're hearing from the presidential candidates is nonsense. They will never work. The Department of Education has no desire nor intentions of canceling any loans. This has got to come down to an executive order. We are it. So please help with this petition. The most important thing that you could do to help with this petition right now is to contact a news organization. I don't care if it's Rush Limbaugh or Rachel Maddow or CNBC or freaking Telemundo. We will talk to any and all media about this. It's very important that we break through before the election. And, we already have. Like I said, we're featured all over the state in Wisconsin today. We've been covered nationally by Fox News, radio, believe it or not, on this petition. By a number of well-known blogs, national radio stations, including Coast to Coast, Minneapolis Progressive Radio. So we are spanning the spectrum between Republican and Democrat. And by the way, folks, Democratic, we are a nonpartisan group. Frankly, at this point, we cannot stand either party. They have failed us. This is a failed lending system. We trust all politicians, whether it's Biden or Trump or Elizabeth Warren or even Bernie Sanders. I'm sorry to say. We don't trust these people further than we can bowl them. So if they want our vote, they've got to put something meaningful in writing before they get our endorsement. Joe Biden, to his credit, is getting close. Joe Biden agreed to adopt Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy platform, which does include returning bankruptcy protection to student loans. But Elizabeth Warren pledged that on day one as president, she would cancel the loans. She would return bankruptcy to the loans by executive order. Joe Biden has not yet made that pledge. That's another item that we are working feverishly on. But yeah, folks, we don't care. We will talk to any and all media. But the way it works is that if you send them an email and say, hey, you should really report on this petition. It's got 560,000 signatures. This guy's been featured before on 60 Minutes and in the New York Times and blah, 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 blah. Say or do whatever you can say or do to get them interested in reporting on this story. That will help. You can give them our contact information. Email justice@studentloanjustice.org. Phone number 202-594-1120. We are ready to be doing 20 interviews a day if we need to. We're very good at it. We can answer all the tough questions. But it starts with you. If they don't know about us, they will never report on us. Only when you contact them and tell them will they know. And, I do that. I contact reporters, news organizations, but the way it works is if I call a TV station and say, hey, you should interview me, the very first instinct that the other person on the phone has is, no, it's not going to happen because you're probably crazy. Because, nobody does that. That's just shameless. It's not a good look. What does work is when a third party says, hey, you should really interview this guy. They've got this nationwide organization and 600,000 members and 560,000 signatures on the petition. You should really interview them. This is a election year. Student loans are very important. They are promoting a solution that has never before been contemplated in the national discourse. It is very newsworthy. When you do that, then there's a pretty good chance they'll give it serious consideration. So if you set them up, we will gladly knock them down. But it starts with you. As with everything in this group, everything that we accomplish begins with you. We don't have a staff to rely on. We don't have $1 million budget. We survive only and totally on donations from normal people. And most months, we are struggling to even be able to keep our lights on. I'm not sad to say it's what you might expect. I mean, this group is a bunch of distressed student loan borrowers. We don't have a whole lot of money, but nonetheless, I'm telling you folks, we are so strong. I mean, you have no idea how important you are. It only takes one good phone call, one good email to get a media story like what we're featured in today here in Wisconsin done. You know, this story sells itself. The founding fathers are on our side. This is a historic struggle that we're into here. So, I don't know about you, but I myself am proud and feel somewhat privileged to be fighting this fight. And make no mistake, folks, we are the pioneers. You know, there are 55 million people in the country who either have student loans or are co-signed on them. 44 million of them are losing sleep at night over their loans. Why they are not here on our group, it is baffling. I don't understand it. They really should be. And, you know, truly, we are growing quickly. You know, we picked up 200 signatures on our petition only a couple weeks ago. But suffice it to say, folks, we are the pioneers, you and me and everybody watching this. So we have to punch a little bit above our weight. We've got to make a little bit extra effort to spread the word about our petition, about our legislation, about this group, about everything that we're doing. And, you know, when we can get even a small fraction of the 44 million distressed student loan borrowers here helping us, I guarantee you the problem is solved tomorrow. The loans go away, never to be thought of again, so we can all move on with our lives. You know, I actually did a check maybe a year or so ago, and all the standing armies in the world, in fact, every soldier, sailor, Air Force person, for every army of every country in the world combined, is like way less than like, I think even like 15 million people. Well, we potentially have an army behind us that's triple that size. So that is strength. You know, in the last election, President Trump won with, I think, 60 million votes. Well, we have 55 million people who should be on our side. And that's being conservative. That's just everybody with student loans. Say nothing of their family members, their children, others who care about this issue or should care. So we can turn this election from a loss into a landslide for one candidate or the other. And we don't care if it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Frankly, I would prefer to see a third party come around because the two parties that we have now are almost completely worthless at this point, in my humble opinion. But suffice it to say, we should be way stronger than we are. And as I said before, I will say for the third time, it all starts with you. Hey, Jane Switchenko, long time no talk to you. So Jane says, is it true that Trump Davos is extending the moratorium until at least 2021? Just curious. And for the record, I pay $1,000 a month in Parent Plus loans. Have been paying this or close to it since my oldest went to college in 2013. Our balances are close to $136,000, and we only borrowed $50,000 originally. Well, Jane, you know, you are more, and first of all, it's good to see you again. Glad you're here. And you are more the rule than the exception, certainly on this group. You know, we have a guy, Christian in California. He borrowed $75,000, okay? As of today, he has repaid $175,000. And he still owes $235,000. I'm not lying, folks. I'm not kidding you. This is the math that our members are faced with by this viciously unconstitutional, nationally threatening lending system. This is why this lending system has got to go. It's over the cliff. And I'm sorry, and you know, it makes me feel bad to hear of your plight, Jane. And just another reason why I'm telling everybody, you know, nobody is paying on their student loans right now, certainly not the federal ones. And in my humble opinion, if anybody pays another dime into their federal student loans, not only is that unwise, it is unpatriotic. Don't feed the beast. Obviously, everybody can make their own decisions, but I'm just saying, why are you so scared of this lending system? The founding fathers, as I said before, are looking down and saying, why are our people so weak? Don't feed the beast. That's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Hey, Deanna says, Attorney Generals are submitting a request to cancel other students around the CARES Act around $8 million. Yeah, you know, we see attorney general's actions come and go and come again and go again, and they very rarely result in anything meaningful. Because state attorneys general can only deal with breaking of law. And federal law, by the way, supersedes state law. So, yeah, we see lawsuits, but, the bad guys around this lending system, they really don't need to break the law, folks. Because they've already bought the law. The law as it stands is the problem. So I'm not going to I just don't get very excited about attorney general's actions I've seen in any states. I've seen too many at this point, and I've seen most of them come to nothing. I'll just give you one quick example. So we went on Top Story on 60 Minutes in 2006. It was a blockbuster story. We took our research to them. That story spawned an investigation by Attorney General at the time, Eliot Spitzer of the state of New York. Well, now Governor, then next Attorney General, Andrew Cuomo, finished that investigation, and it was the biggest scandal in the history of higher education in this country. People were arrested. Financial aid administrators across the country were fired because they were taking illegal bribes from the colleges. And that was just one of the bad things that was going on with that. So this caused Senator Ted Kennedy to do his very last piece of higher education legislation, which passed into law, by the way, and was signed by George Bush, the Student Loan Sunshine Act. And this supposedly was to end all of these corrupt practices between the lenders and the colleges. It's called the Student Loan Sunshine Act. And I'm here to tell you, 10 years later, 12, 13 years later, that this Student Loan Sunshine Act turned out to be a complete farce. It was gotten around. Even the Federal Reserve, believe it or not, stepped in to do safe harbor workarounds, loopholes around the Student Loan Sunshine Act. And, the colleges paid, all of them paid a fine. Many, if not most of them, paid fines. It was a really big deal, but it came to nothing. And that was kind of my first lesson in the student loan universe, that, you can see lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Don't be distracted by them. They're not going to solve your problem. They just aren't. We've got to solve this one for ourselves. And the core of this lies in the absence of bankruptcy protection. It is true. But at this point, folks, it is a failed lending system. And the only thing worth fighting for is getting these loans canceled by executive order, period. So yeah, don't be distracted, guys. There are a lot of people on Facebook, these people that call themselves student advocates. They claim to be fighting for the students. And yeah, they even file lawsuits against the federal government from time to time, against the Department of Education, against the lenders. And almost never do those lawsuits come to anything. And even more sinister, some groups, I won't mention any names on Facebook, they are actually backed by the lending industry. They're what's called AstroTurf. They are fake grassroots groups. And what they really want you to do is nothing. They want you to do nothing. So they wave these shiny things in front of your eyes like this lawsuit, and they give you the impression that, oh, okay, well, the good guys are on the job, so I can just sit back and wait. And that's exactly what the bad guys want you to do. Because as long as you sit there and wait and watch and worry, this problem will go on forever. And we don't want that. Lord knows, I don't want it. I don't think you want it. I don't think anybody on this group wants to spend the rest of their life trapped in the clutches of this ridiculous, nonsensical, cheesy, indefensible, unconstitutional, parasitic, big government lending system. Do you? I do not. Do you? I don't. So don't be distracted. More importantly, don't be demotivated by stuff that you see on the internet about how, oh, Joe Biden's going to save us, or Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders is going to save us. No. It doesn't work that way, folks. We've got to save ourselves. And it starts, truly, with this petition. As I said, all the loan cancellation stuff that we're seeing in the presidential campaign, it is nonsense. The one thing that will count is when the president cancels the loans by executive order, whether it's Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or the next person. And remember, folks, if we can get even 5 or 10 million people on our petition, and there's no reason that we can't, given that 44 million people in the country are distressed, we can shut this lending system down by popular consent. But we've got to keep our eyes on the prize, not get distracted. Don't be lulled into a sense of complacency thinking that someone else that you read about in the paper, or me, or any of our state chapter leaders, are going to pull your weight for you. Because we're not. We can't. We can't do your work for you. These are your loans and this is your problem. Brown Mackey was taking money. I did not know about it. State grants keep repackaging, administrative issues. Yeah, I could talk for hours, Tara, about how cunning the colleges are. When you go into college, they go, oh, yeah, you'll probably have to borrow $15,000 over 3 years or 4 years. But you'll be earning like $60,000 as soon as you get out of college. And no. That's all bullshit. Oh, by the way, our default rate is very low. That's all lies. The colleges are very good at turning a 4-year degree into what is now, on average, a 3 or 4 year degree. So that $15,000 and all the other aid dries up, all of a sudden becomes, nope, you're going to be borrowing $57,000 for your undergraduate degree, and maybe you didn't even graduate, which most people do not. Most people who go to college do not walk out with a degree. Like 58 or even 60% of everyone who goes to college do not graduate. But the colleges don't care. The colleges ought to be ashamed of themselves. Yeah, shake your head. That's right, Tara. It's disgusting. And that's why we're here, because we should be hopeful, folks, because we are so strong. The lending system does not control us. We control it. And we could shut it down. We could delete it from existence tomorrow. They say who holds the gold makes the rules. It's the golden rule. He who holds the gold makes the rules. Well, who holds that $1.6 trillion in student loan debt? Do the banks hold it? No, they don't. Does the Department of Education, does the government hold it? No, they don't. Do the colleges hold it? Well, actually, they kind of do, but they got it through us. Ultimately, that $1.6 trillion, if it's even real, has to come from our pockets. So we hold the gold. And that is the one strength that we have. Well, we have many strengths, but that's the one strength that we have. We could cut this lending system off at the nuts tomorrow if we had to. Nobody is paying right now. And again, in my humble opinion, it is not only unwise, but it's unpatriotic if you ever pay another dollar certainly on your federal student loans. Now, with private student loans, it's a little different deal. But as I said, folks, if the president is going to cancel these loans, and he must, because it has failed, and everybody, including everybody in Washington, D.C., knows it's failed, he may as well also issue an executive order returning bankruptcy protections to the loans that remain. So those are the two things. Yeah, there's nothing patriotic about this, Tara, and I don't want to bring in other issues, but let me just say, there is nothing good about beggaring your own citizens. All that does is opens up the entire country to be vulnerable to other countries who will absolutely take advantage of us. Nothing patriotic about it. The founding fathers are on our side. Don't forget. We need Biden to step it up, and Trump will trump it, sweeten the deal. Well, I don't want to show our hand too much, Deanna, but yeah. We need to push Biden. He's getting very close, folks. When he first started this campaign, he was nowhere. And we've had many conversations with his campaign manager, with the man himself, with his family members. And to his credit, he has come around for us. He adopted Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy plan, and that's not nothing. But, folks, this is Joe Biden we're talking about. We don't trust him any further than we can bulk him or any politician. And at a minimum, he has got to, in writing, pledge that he will return bankruptcy protections to student loans on day one. He's got to do that in order to get our endorsement, in order for us to throw any support his way. And if he does that, and Donald Trump does nothing, I can guarantee you Donald Trump will lose this election by a lot, all else being equal. You know, this is the bonanza of bonanzas electorally in this presidential campaign. Every other issue out there, whether it's immigration or the wall or healthcare or abortion or you name it, the battle lines are pretty well drawn. You might be able to suck a couple 100,000 people this way or that way, but the battle lines are very clearly drawn. With student loans, it is the wild freaking West. Neither party has stepped up. And the 44 million distressed student loan borrowers, most of whom are independent or even Republican, I could also say most of whom are either independent or Democratic, they are by and large up for grabs. You know, even a 3 million vote swing should decide this election, let alone a 20 million vote swing. Yeah, that turns a loss into a landslide and vice versa. So the candidates ignore us at their peril. I hope Joe Biden comes around. Heck, I hope Donald Trump issues that executive order by Election Day. It could happen. People in Washington, D.C. are not stupid people, folks. They are not. And I should also say that, yeah, we've worked a lot with Biden campaign, but I also happen to know, and I have it on very, very good word, that the highest echelons of the Trump administration are very, very well aware of our proposal / requests / demand. And I know that they are considering it. So, as I said, it is just so important that we pressure both candidates, both campaigns as much as we can, through the media, through direct contact. If you want Biden to win, then you call Biden and you tell him, make that pledge to return bankruptcy protection to student loans by executive order. If you like Trump, you go to whitehouse.gov/contact and you tell him to cancel these loans by executive order if he wants to win this election. Do it. Do it now while you're thinking about it, while it's fresh in your mind. And tell everybody you know to do it. But more than anything right now, folks, tell everybody to sign this petition. Get a media company to report on this petition. Deanna says, the current tally constant would let anyone, especially politicians, see us growing. Yep, absolutely. You have no idea how large we are, how important we are, and how we will determine who the next president is. Because right now, as we speak, I have to say, we have to give Joe Biden the edge. You know, 4 years ago, neither... hey, Tara. Well, I don't know about... you can go to Joe Biden's website. I would give you the email to his campaign manager, but I kind of don't think he'd appreciate that. But you can go to joebiden.com, and you can find a contact site where you can just write to them. They do read that stuff, by the way. I've gotten meaningful feedback from them in the past. Don't think it's with the link that I sent. But for Joe Biden, if you just go to joebiden.com, you can find it. Donald Trump, go to whitehouse.gov/contact and do the contact the president thing and just type it out on the form. They do read that stuff. It does actually help. And, you know, if all the 600,000 people in our group did that between now and Wednesday, that would overwhelm the entire whitehouse.gov website. It would blow up their server. I'm not kidding. You'd be surprised how few people actually go to that thing and use that thing. Whitehouse.gov/contact. So, okay, folks, I'm getting hoarse here. We've gone way, way, way longer than I was planning tonight. I normally try to keep these things to 20 minutes. But I'm just so on fire right now. We've never been in a better position, folks. I know I say mean things and I say vicious things, but I'm stoked. I'm more encouraged and hopeful now than I have ever been in the 15 years since we've been doing this. So please just keep that in mind. Let that give you some fuel for your own fire. Do whatever you can. Yeah, and you know, it doesn't hurt to contact the White House twice or 10 times or once a day for a month. You know, it only takes 30 seconds. It doesn't take a lot of time. And it really does all add up. And when all 600,000 people connected to this group start rowing in the same direction, I'm telling you, this gets done quickly. So do it, folks. Put some time into this. It's worth doing. When we hang together, we will absolutely win. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. We love that you're here, regardless of your political stripes. We accept all comers, and that is a true strength that we have. So keep that in mind. Let's win this together, in the immortal words of Benjamin Franklin, lest we all hang separately. We don't want that. We don't want the bad solution. We've got to have the good solution. We've got to put in a little bit of time. Starts with you. God bless and Godspeed. And have a great week. Peace.